That's right, guys. It's time to talk about Doctor Who Oxygen, Season 10, Episode 5, here on the AFTERBUZZ TV Doctor Who After Show.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hey there, Whovians. Welcome back to AFTERBUZZ TV, where we're talking about Doctor Who. Oh my God. All right, it's already off to a really weird start. We're technically not even supposed to be on the air yet. We started early. But thank you guys so much for joining us. We're talking about Season 10, Episode 5, Oxygen, Crazy Adventures in Space. We're going to talk about the Doctor, Bill, more discussion of the vault, even though we don't really have more information, but we can speculate even further on it. And you bet you will. You can bet that we will. I'm your host, Zach Wilson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ZachWilson. The whole panel's back this week. To my left,
I'm Tauri J. Miller. You can find me at Tauri J. T-U-R-I J-A. Way.
It's Dave Child. You can find me at mrdavechild or davechild.com.
returning us to normalcy.
Hi, I'm Adrian Snow. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow. That's MSADRINSNOW.
Ooh. Sorry we're putting so much excitement into this.
I love the chat. If you guys are listening to this or watching this later, you can always join us live at AFTERBUZZ TV on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific time. And the chat's already making me smile because Renji said he found this episode, or she, I actually don't know anybody's real names.
Right.
I found this episode breathtaking.
Oh,
snap.
Yum,
I
yum,
get
yum.
it.
Yeah,
I like it.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Let's dive into Oxygen.
Yes. Suck it in. I loved this episode. I loved it. I thought this was the best episode of this season so far. And I have to say, after last week's episode that I thought was the worst episode of this season, I thought it was great to be suddenly okay, good. This is everything I love in a Doctor Who episode.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree with you on this. This is easily the most fun I've had on an episode.
Yeah.
Season 10.
And it was intense, and it was great drama, great suspense, and it had kind of a social theme in it as well, and it had everything that I love out of Doctor Who. So, yeah.
Even the small gripes that I had don't really affect my enjoyment of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was back to Doctor Who form where it's the corridors, it's the
I like how that's it. First thing,
corridors.
Love them corridors.
That's what you need, son.
Yum, yum,
he
yum.
excels in them
so
corridors. He's running around. He's here's a door. There's a door.
Talking about how
Everywhere,
doors open.
door.
Versus
Bam. Corridors.
Yeah.
Corridors.
You might say that's the way, the hallway.
Damn.
I'm enjoying this.
I know. No, it was a classic Doctor Who episode, which I appreciated. There, for me, I am kind of vault antsy. Can we get to the big story? But overall, I did enjoy the episode. It was nice to have their little space adventure because I feel like that's kind of we gotta touch the space adventure at least once in a season.
Yeah.
And I like that. I liked I just always loved the interaction between Bill and the Doctor, and I'm always down for some space zombies. So,
Yeah.
They were so creepy.
Yeah, the good creepy zombies, good creepy monsters.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I like too. I want the creepier the better, and this was a nice creepy start. And
it was creepy. I mean, because with no context, we're on a space station to kick us off, and there's a spacesuit zombie.
Yeah,
just
I
floating.
guess is the best way I could describe it.
I mean, it's the suit that's actually the villain, but the dead body is in there for effect.
yeah, so, and it reminded me of the Silence in the Library too. Because that was another suit being controlled by another force, and there just happens to be a dead body in the suit.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it extra creepy, is like the skeleton flopping around, or in this case, the dead bodies, the corpses that just happen to be in the suits.
And you can also tell that this version of Dead Bodies in Suits is like a little bit more adult. Because it was definitely one of those moments where I was eating, and then the zombie popped up on the screen, and I was like, oh, I shouldn't eat right now.
Out of respect for the zombies.
I know. I'm
in
just like,
space.
I'm one of those people who's like, if you've seen Lost Boys, if there's maggots in your mouth and I'm eating spaghetti, I'll be like, oh God. So that's
I literally ate spaghetti during this episode.
and you were fine.
And then a chest burster came out of your shit.
Right? But no, it was good to see the zombies return.
Yeah.
I also felt that they were very Borg-like, which was maybe just because of the Star Trek reference at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, the Final Frontier.
But it did have because they walked like robots.
Yeah.
And yet they were bluish dead bodies. So that was enough to be like Borgy. And then there was also when they repaired the lock, they all kind of moved together in unison, and that was also very Borg-like. So that was kind of
the way they like parted.
the way they parted, and the one guy who can fix the lock kind of comes up and fixes the lock.
Yeah.
That was very like swarmy, and they moved in a swarm, so it was a lot like the Borg.
Yeah. Also, in the way that they like repaired the suits was very much like they're simulating you into being zombies as well.
Yeah.
Right, and getting rid of the organic component. That was very Borg-like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a cool villain. So with the suits, it was sort of, they were networked together. So it was like one organism in a sense, like mechanical, but one organism.
Yeah.
I always like that. It's just a computer acting through many arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also like it whenever there's a sci-fi component that's just one command that's taken wrong by an AI, or taken right by the AI in this case, but it's a simple command, and that's just get rid of the organic component in your suit.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing that's kind of spreading as a virus amongst all these suits.
Which is the second time we've had that theme, because with the Smile Bots, it was kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
There's been a lot of also just like political puns this episode or this season overall. I'm like, Mr. Moffat, you got something to say? What's going on? But like,
Right.
just even with like the whole idea of like when he shows them the oh my God, why am I blanking on
The psychic paper.
psychic paper? They go, oh, you're part of the union. And then the whole idea of just like the corporation like controlling it and capitalism, and they made that whole speech he has at the end where he's talking about capitalist, and so that was nice to see. And then I think my favorite part was watching Bill have her like white person moment with the blue guy.
Right. Yeah.
It's like even her being like, your name's Darren. He's like, Dahran. I'm like, oh, wow, way to go there. Okay. Like, I was like, that's really cute.
I used to be on the other side of this.
Yeah, she's like, I'm not.
And then he's
usually-
like, why? And then walks away. And that was a nice moment because it's like, oh, right, we've evolved past that. At that point.
Right.
Yeah.
I was curious if he was like from the. I don't know if this is offensive. I thought he might have been from the same people as Dorian Moldovar.
Okay.
I had to look up his last name.
Are they aliens?
Oh yeah.
Well, only because
guy.
like they never go into like who he is or like
Okay.
they don't get into like what the history of this guy is with the humans here or like
Right.
who they're working for. We get vagaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're with an alien, I was intrigued.
Okay. Because, like, in the behind-the-scenes piece with the actor who was the blue...
Darren.
he was saying that he is human, but he's, like, just genetically different.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah.
Right. So just don't call him a blue person.
Yeah.
It's like blue
Yeah.
American, I think.
No. Oh
Maybe?
no.
Is that wrong?
Oh no.
Just blue? Just blue?
He could be from Britain. You don't
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
He's
Blue
like, all
American.
my friends are blue. Or
I
all
love.
my
I
friends
have,
are blue.
I have a lot of friends.
I have a
that
lot
are
of friends are
bluish.
blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, some of my friends. Yeah.
And now so does he, because of the zombies.
Yeah.
Oh, poor taste? Poor taste?
They were great.
Too soon.
Okay.
Too
Speaking of dissing bodies, I really liked going back to zombies. And Bill, her reaction to the guy being stuck in the suit and how she felt like it was really disrespectful of
Yeah.
his dead
Right.
body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
she
I-
wanted to like take him out or like lay him down or something.
Yeah. Because you wouldn't want your body, like, basically encased in the thing that killed it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you were hit by a car, you wouldn't want to be, like, put in that car for the rest of your life.
Right.
I mean,
Not
it's-
me. That's how I want to go.
It's kind of like a Cyberman reference, just because I happen to be watching the season with Danny Pink when he becomes a Cyberman, even though,
Yeah.
it's a weird time.
Yeah.
I don't know what season you're talking about.
What? Nothing happened.
Yeah.
Season,
Oh, great.
that
Yeah.
eight, yeah, what?
I was joking.
I know. That season? Like, is that the one we don't talk about?
Yeah.
There was a lot of. I looked up, researched this episode on the BBC site, and Ganymede is kind of a go-to like space reference that they bring up a lot. But it's also mentioned as the Ganymede. Oh, I wrote this down. Ganymede beacon was the human-made space station in Revenge of the Cybermen.
Oh.
So it might have been in connection to that. I kept thinking of Red Dwarf because they talk about Ganymede a lot in Red Dwarf, even though that's like a whole different series. That's about miners and a mining ship. So I
Interesting.
wondered if it was kind of a nod towards Red Dwarf.
Which one is Revenge of the Cybermen?
I didn't go that extensive in my research. I just saw this, but it's the episode called Revenge of
I
the
mean,
Cybermen.
Chat.
there is that interesting thing that it's just a throwaway comment about, like, do you think, like, how they think the AI is dumb? So that could be, and just even the whole, like, concept of a corpse basically living within a metal body or a suit.
Right.
That could be a tie in there. That maybe
Yeah,
we're
very-
watching the dawn of the Cybermen in some type of weird, twisted way.
And we do know that
Revenge
there's-
of the Cybermen was a Tom Baker.
Right. Okay, cool.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, it feels like a Tom Bakery title.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and we know we're building up to these original Cybermen, so maybe that's kind of a nod towards that coming up.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Also, I like the red eye on the suit was kind of a HAL reference.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it
Kinda
looks
had-
very Hal.
Yeah, and yet the voice was also, I feel like they were able to parody Siri, parody those Amazon Echo things. And
Alexa.
and also parody the paperclip guy
Oh,
in
yes.
Microsoft Word, because it was
That's
just...
old school.
Yeah, but it was like, oh, it looks
Clippy.
like you're trying to run. Let me help you with that.
Hey,
Right.
his name is Clippy.
Sorry.
Yeah, don't
Never forget Clippy.
disrespect Clippy.
Never. I forgot about your Clippy tattoo that you make me talk every time we have a problem.
It also reminded me of the computer from Portal.
Right.
If you've ever played those games.
GLaDOS.
GLaDOS.
Yes. That
Still.
that was my thought.
The good.
Move on.
Yeah, I mean, it fits in with a lot of the AI storylines.
Yeah.
But what I thought was interesting and where this episode really like took off in like a great like sci-fi commentary element was, is it the computer misinterpreting a directive? Is it the computer deciding something, or is it a nefarious capitalistic hand that is demanding or that is like just willing to kill all of its
I mean,
workers?
the minute they mentioned that they had bosses that they were trying to reach out to, I was like, oh, the bosses did it. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe I'm just very cynical, and I've worked for enough corporations to understand how they operate, and that in the future, far enough in the future, if corporations still have all the power, then they will just kind of like kill people to get rid of them.
Well, also, didn't the oxygen tank say like oxygen credits?
Yeah.
Like
So
as
you have
soon as
to
I
pay
saw
for
that
oxygen.
in the opening, I was just like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, this is gonna get dark."
Yeah.
I'm glad it was. I kind of knew it was building up to the corporation is bad, but
Corporations, man.
I like that. I like that theme. That I don't mind if
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it's exactly what I thought it was. I'm not disappointed by that turn.
Well, look, I mean, in the real world, like corporations are like running amok right now and doing all kinds of craziness. It's not. I wouldn't. It doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility by any means
Right.
that this could be the level. And I think the idea with like the mythical union is like maybe there is a union out there.
Yeah, but
that
or
is
if-
like trying to like save all of these workers who are being like not just abused but murdered.
Yeah.
As the companies try to save money.
And
Yeah.
also the fact that if there is a union, it's mythical. It's like we've heard tell of a union.
Right.
That should not be the case.
Yeah.
There should
Yeah.
be a union always.
There's no workers' rights because there's no one looking out for them.
Yeah, there was some case, I've read it just in passing, like, because you know, we all consume way too much news nowadays, but of a story of a company that felt it was easier to pay out, like, death benefits to the family than to pay for insurance for the workers. And so rather than pay more for the insurance to take care of them, they just would, when they died, pay out the benefits to their family.
Yeah, and that also feels like as soon as you said that, I assumed it's something about coal miners or something. 'Cause
Yeah,
it feels
sounds
like
like
that.
it, or like nuclear.
Which is interesting that this episode is about miners in space.
Yeah.
So it still feels like it's corporations exploiting miners that are, rather than being underneath the Earth, they're literally above the Earth. They're, you know, they're in space. So it's a nice parallel because of that. Also, just great suit designs. I while we're talking about the suits a little earlier, because the heads, the halos, or the helmets,
force field.
the helmets were really interesting. But I wondered, like, oh, why do they look so flimsy? And then to be revealed later that the air is individual and the helmets can just be like whipped out, and inflated and then put on. I thought that was a good sense of design that made it very different from Silence in the Library or the other spacesuits that we see, because they have to like make so many spacesuits for this like show, different eras, and this was a good new one.
Yeah.
It kind of makes you wonder. God, I wish we could know at what points of humanity the Doctor's hitting, because we've already been like back in Tenet years to the end of humanity.
Yeah.
And so I always kind of be like, oh man, I wish someone would just tell me, like, is this like 15,000 years in the future? Is this 2 million years in the future? Like, so I would know, like, because the spacesuits do get advanced, which is nice to see. So then you kind of wonder, well, where are we at this point in for humanity's history or future? You know,
Right. Also, to talk about that, the reason why he goes to this specific time and place is interesting too, because I love the opening where we actually get to see him have a little bit of a lecture, even though we don't really know what the lecture is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
Actually, we do, but I forget what I did.
it was crop rotation.
Crop rotation.
Which, why is the Doctor lecturing about crop rotation in the first place?
Well, that's a nice little reference to Let's Kill Hitler. Random.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Because they are in a crop. They make crop circles.
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
crop
kind of
circles.
rotation.
Yeah.
That's funny. If
Let's
they're
just go
looking
with
for
that.
a random one, I guess that's why.
Just
I
gonna
dig
give
it.
it to him.
But I like that he's talking about space so much just because he misses space. He just
Right.
wants to see space. That's his...
He's been stuck here for over 100 years, like over a century, just like at this school.
And even the last couple of trips he's made,
Still Earth-based.
they're still Earth-based or
Well, he went to a
another planet.
colony.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he wasn't in space itself.
Yeah.
And you got the feeling that he missed seeing the stars firsthand and being in space. So when he was looking for something, he's not going to find a place that he's just that is just a nice place to hang out and look at some constellations. He actually wants to help people.
Yeah.
And I love his talk about you see humanity's face when they're asking for help.
Yeah.
And we help them, and that's how they see our faces. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah. The universe. When the universe asks for help, what do you do? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. And I thought that was just great motivation for why he does it. And also, what ends up happening in the end of this episode also showed that there was a price for that hubris still. Like, he wants to just go on an adventure, he wants to save people, but still, maybe he shouldn't have, because it actually affected him and hurt him.
And that was one of the things I really liked about this episode, is that the obstacles and the stakes just kept getting higher. At first, he couldn't access the TARDIS. Then his Sonic got broken. Then he was blind. Like, it just kept mounting against him just on this one whim that he decided to take.
Yeah.
Right.
It was nice for the Doctor to have actual consequences, because I think a lot of the times, unless it's something like a big episode where you know a companion's going to die, or a companion's going to leave or something,
Or the Doctor's gonna like the
Or the
same
Doctor.
thing. Like, other than those major episodes where one or two of the people are going to die or leave.
Yeah.
You're right. There's very rarely lasting consequences
For the Doctor. Like, we could talk all day about how he mourns the people that die in his name.
Yeah,
but
well, the
he doesn't
fleeting
have to-
single one-off characters, sure.
Yeah.
But for our characters, rare.
Yeah. And it happened for it to happen to both of them, for them to both suffer, like, I mean, for him, it's more long lasting, but even for Bill, to be faced with the thought that you're going to die and that this man that you've trusted is leaving you to die and telling you you're not going to die, but he lies. So it was kind of like, oh, that's nice to see. I did find it weird, the mom montage, which makes me think that they're setting up for something else.
That sequence screamed there's more to this story.
Yeah.
Like, before this, I could have been persuaded to that, like, there wasn't, that it was just, like, something about her past and her loss of family and moving forward from that. But there's no way that she screamed out for her mother, who she barely knew.
Yeah.
Only has this one picture of. And they flash to the photo.
Yeah.
That's important.
I thought it was just them saying "Happy Mother's Day, everyone."
No, this is almost every single episode we've seen a picture. Once the picture was introduced, even though there's more than one picture, this one particular picture was introduced. They keep going back to it.
Yeah, it's a touchstone, definitely. They're trying to make us remember what the mom looks like and keep her in our thoughts.
I actually just interpreted it as her kind of feeling like this is what her mom may have felt like before she died. Like, essentially, she's in dying in that moment. She's leaving behind everyone that she loves without them knowing why she would die. And so, like, that's how she connects with her mom in that moment.
And I think it truly does both. And I think that's why it's actually a nice moment and doesn't stand out. For me, it didn't stand out as that weird because I think it had that. But it was also another touchstone to make me realize, oh, it's going to be important.
Yeah, and then there's just the way that the Doctor is willing to sacrifice himself, that I've never seen him do it quite that way for a companion. Like, I've seen him go on risky adventures for a companion, but it's very rare that, like, even when he was blind and he's like, well, give her my suit, like, take her out of the suit and give her mine. I was like, that's just a level of the Doctor willing to sacrifice his own physical body that I don't really recall in the past ever seeing him do before.
Yeah.
Which I was like, what is this about?
Maybe he's more willing to do it with 12 regenerations ahead of him.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, he has 12 more
Yeah.
set and ready to go.
Yeah.
As
Right
opposed to, like, because this is a new set of 13.
Because
But
of River's download, right?
No,
No, because
of
after Matt Smith was supposed to, like, in his regenerations original set, Matt Smith was the last one.
Yeah.
Matt Smith, because of the War Doctor and Tennant having 2.
Yeah.
Matt Smith was number 13 of the regenerations. Capaldi only came about after the Time Lords gave him an extra set of regenerations in that Christmas special.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So Capaldi is like volume 2, issue 1.
Okay.
If
Yeah.
you will.
That helps.
Count.
me.
Yeah. But that means that he has 12 more. So
Right.
he's like probably a little more willing to be reckless with his physical self, because he knows that if he regenerates, then he's still 11 more.
But there's also, isn't there the case of that the Doctor has to get back to the TARDIS in order to regenerate? Like, he can, isn't that something?
It's not
or do
connected
they
to
change
the
that?
TARDIS.
Okay.
Because the regenerations are built into the Time Lords themselves.
But there's something about, there was something a long time ago, and maybe it's changed about how.
Continuity change in Doctor Who?
I think it was Eccleston, or maybe it was Tennant, had to get back to the TARDIS to complete the regeneration process.
He needed, that was his like second use for the Tennant Doctor, because he had his like spare hand that got cut off, and that was the hand allowed him to regenerate without changing his physical form.
Yeah, I
Got it.
feel like there's something.
Which was what the retcon was. Originally, he just used it to heal, and then they retconned it to be a full regeneration.
Yeah.
Okay.
Circling back to his being Capaldi's overwillingness to protect Bill, he's also very, very, I guess, interested in like keeping her calm. Like, he goes out of his way to like really try to joke her out of being concerned about things, which usually I feel like in the past the Doctor would kind of break down why you should be scared, but also what he's going to do. Like, Tennant was very prone on being like, well, here's my plan and here's why you shouldn't be worried. And Matt Smith just wouldn't tell you anything. He'd just let things happen and then eventually weasel his way out. But this Capaldi right now, I don't think he did this with Clara very much, but like I feel like he really goes out of his way to like comfort her and make her feel at ease, and it may be because she's new, but like I feel
Or
like
that she's his granddaughter.
yeah, it may
Perhaps.
be because she's his current daughter and he knows it, and he's totally just trying to be her father figure.
Right.
I got you, girl. You know?
I mean, even if not literal, I think that's true figuratively.
Yeah.
So I think he sees her as his fill-in daughter, if anything.
Yeah, there's a lot more father-daughter dynamic to their relationship than
Yeah.
with Clara. That was more of a
That was
friend.
weird.
I don't know what they.
Clara was. You can't quite tell what Clara. It
Yeah.
is funny when you break down what each one was
Yeah.
Yeah.
to him, and then it gets to Clara, and you're like, I don't know, because there was almost some romance there, and then there wasn't. It's
Yeah.
just a little wacky.
There was sort of romance when it was Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when it was Capaldi, it was just like kind of a daughter, but it's felt that lingering Smith feel is still kind of there. So
Yeah, it was never clear because it was like she was supposed to be like I guess a partner is the closest because she was sort of supposed to
Right,
be
partner.
on his
Yeah.
level in
But I
terms
thought-
of craftiness.
you did get a little
and,
bit of that. Yeah,
Donna was more of a
Donna was a best friend.
best
Yes.
friend.
Yeah.
But she was also more of a partner, even though she was kind of like down on herself. She was always figuring stuff out. Like when they brought Clara and they made her such a part of his life, I was like, oh, it's kind of like Dr. Donna. I'm like, okay, but
Right.
like I kind of already got this.
Speaking of companions, just to cycle it back to this episode, Nardole. We got more Nardole.
Oh
did.
man,
Which was
I
great.
love Nardole.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Nardole?
He was really great. He was really fun. It did bring up a lot of questions about what is Nardole though.
He's half robot with a human head.
but it's still lungs, I guess, because he
needed
he
oxygen.
needed oxygen. And
Well,
he
his
needed,
head would need to have oxygen. He's still got a human brain and
I guess I think it would hurt in the void, to be specific, because if it was outside in the void, then you're gonna get puffy and you're gonna get affected.
Yeah.
But it must have lungs. I just assumed it was a cybernetic body with lungs. But also, in the very beginning of the episode, he says, "I'd love to see my true face. I swapped this one a few years ago when I was on the run."
Well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of weirdness around Nardole and what he is, because he
Yeah.
did start off as some type of human or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
then his head was detached, and then the doctor reattached it. So it's like he's part human, part robot.
But he still must have lungs
That-
because
yeah.
he has this.
You're right though. That was a line that they sort of just
threw out there.
skipped over and moved past. It seems like in a show with the
Suspicious, right?
doctor,
Someone-
changing of faces is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Yeah.
especially when if you go back, he was effectively River's companion.
Yeah.
Right.
Back in the day, in criminal enterprises. So that's probably why Nardole probably did some real shady stuff.
Oh, yeah.
The question is, if he completely changed his face, was he someone that we knew?
Right. That's my thing. Like, if he turns out to be the master, it would be weird because
That's too far.
yeah, because also he's kind of playing dumb most of the time. Like, it would be I love the idea that he's like, "Doctor, I took the fluid out. So now you can't travel because you told me
Fluid link.
you told me that it would be something you can't do." And then he, turns out the doctor lies and goes. But also I love how I researched this, and in 1963, in the episode The Daleks, that's exactly why the doctor goes into the Dalek city, because of missing fluid. The same missing fluid that he referenced. So he must have fixed that in the TARDIS so it wouldn't happen again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's nice that seems like it could be reasonable. And
It's
then
probably an intentional tie. I mean, there's
Yeah.
the parallels between Capaldi and Hartnell's doctors have been more and more consistent.
Yeah.
Maybe
as
he's
we go.
Captain Jack Harkness. That'd be funny.
that would be great.
I mean, he was
He
never going
does
to die.
eventually turn into a giant head.
Yeah. So
Right.
I really would love them to explain that.
Yeah, that
How
he
we
gets
get
so
to that
old
point.
that he just turns into a giant head.
Yeah,
The head gets bigger as you get older. That's
Yeah.
just a thing.
totally.
Sure.
Happens.
Yeah, maybe his head was floating out in space, and without pressure of space, it just expands, and he's like, I can't die.
Oh, wow.
And it just gets real wide,
Real
and then
wide.
eventually falls into a jar, and then he's like, call me Bo. And,
Well, we know why he's called the face of
Well-
Bo because of that,
yeah.
We're talking about season 10. I don't think we can I think the spoiler wall for season 3 is fine.
You don't know. People could be catching up.
I mean, if you haven't watched the Jack Harkness arc, go watch it.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
But that's we find out why his name is the face of Bo in Torchwood, right? Or is it?
no, that's on Doctor
it's
Who.
just
That's
a
on Doctor
throwaway
Who?
line at the end of season 3 where he says
Yeah.
Yeah.
when I was younger they used to call me the face of Bo,
Right.
and that's when you go,
But let's talk about
No.
Bill surviving. The way that she survives, because the doctor sort of lets her die after he figures out what's happening here.
Yeah.
And it shuts down their nervous systems, but they're still more or less alive. Is
No.
that what? I was a little bit confused by
No,
this.
what it is it shocks them and kills them by killing off their nervous system. But with her suit, it was damaged enough that it didn't have enough power to actually kill her.
just enough to
Just enough to knock her out.
yeah.
So, which I thought actually makes sense. It was a cheat that kind of worked for me.
Yeah.
Especially since he's like, oh, in the next room I could fix this. Mm-hmm. I think I could do this because I think I can fix the whole thing in the next room. It kind of showed him playing chess kind of ahead of the game.
I don't know how does he get her to come back? What is the component of him touching her suit that gets her to
He kind of just
was it just release because there was an air sound, an air release sound.
Maybe he just, I don't know, that he just pressed a magic button.
Yeah.
That was why I
gotta
thought
get
for a
some.
moment that everybody was going to come back.
I'm so
I thought
glad they
there was a brief moment where I thought that this was a way to save oxygen, was shocking everybody into stasis.
Yeah.
But some of them were really screwed up.
Yeah, that's what I
was.
was confused. I was like, but that can't be it, because half of them are really messed up.
Yeah, I think it was also because she was in the spaceship. A lot of them who had the crazy faces died outside the spaceship, so their face did all the bloating that happens when you get sucked into the vacuum.
Yeah, and she just got, and she didn't even get all of the.
Yeah, she just
Crazy
got
lines.
a blood clot on the side of her face.
She got one little scar right there, which
Yeah.
I think got cleared up by the end of the episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was healing.
I felt cheated a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, I love Bill, and I would have been sad to see her go, but the fact that he's just I knew she wasn't gonna die, and just left her there, it felt like a bummer, because essentially it reminded me of that moment when the doctor, I guess this was Capaldi's doctor, left Clara in that robot dungeon.
Yeah.
And it was don't breathe, I'm going to leave you, see you later. But, it was her making her way out, and then him kind of coming back. Whereas this time, it felt like he had another plan, and then just kind of happened, he happened to luck into her not actually dying.
Well, not to me, because it felt like he was, the fluid, the reactors in the next room.
Right.
I got that he knew that. He figured out, when he was trying to figure out what to do, he figured out that the suits, the corporation, is actually using the suits. I love that double suit thing, by the way. But, so he figured if this is going to work at all, it's in the next room that I can solve this. And so it was kind of a Hail Mary, but it made sense to me, because he was able, and that's also why I like him going through the rounds of, okay, use my suit, okay, do this, okay, go through all of the options.
Yeah.
There is seriously no other options but to let her get shocked, but I think she can survive that, and that's kind of what I felt like. It was him playing the odds, and he ended up winning.
Yeah. Though there was always the chance that the suit was going to be I think the best route is outside.
Yes, totally. But I think he was kind of playing against those odds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit weird, but I also think it was a bit weird that she was so immediately forgiving of him. Because
Yes,
I
that's
recall
true.
with Clara, she was pretty pretty pissed that he left her there. So, and I think it's nice to see somebody that's willing to hug the Doctor, because that's I think most I've ever seen the Doctor
Oh my god,
hug.
the group hug.
The group hug.
When Nardole gets in there,
Yeah.
he's just like,
Cuddles.
He's like, yeah.
That was nice.
But I hope eventually she's going to be like a little bit tougher on the Doctor, because, you know, you can't let everything he does fly.
Right, but at the same time, I am kind of happy that we've already gotten through 5 episodes, and there isn't that one episode where I guess we already have seen her go, "What type of monster are you, Doctor?" There was that conversation in the 2nd episode, but still, I kind of like avoiding that because it's well
Done it so
worn.
much.
Yeah, the companions are often like, "I thought you were my friend / father / husband.
what gave you that?
Yeah.
Yet you are a monster." You know, it's
Well, not even that, but just like, yeah, I guess we have had that enough.
Yeah.
People being like, you gotta be held accountable. The last companion that was kind of like, whatever, let's just go with the flow, no big deal, was Rose. I feel like she was the last one who was kind of like, yeah, I'll become Bad Wolf and let's do this. And Mickey was the one. And I guess we have Nardole for that at this point, to be the kind of voice of reason.
I was less upset like that they'll like manage to survive because there was a lasting result for the Doctor with the blindness. Like if they had just cured him, I think I would have been a little more upset that everything seemed to work out. Yeah. But the fact that like the Doctor is now completely blind. He can't see. Like going forward for
Whoever knows.
We don't know how long. Could be the rest of this Jock Doctor's. Like Capaldi could spend the rest of the season as the blind Doctor.
Interesting.
I don't think that he will, but I'm saying like they're not saying that he's not.
Well, they're hinting at, because I went and looked it up after, and I think they are kind of, if you don't want to hear this right now, then
Potential spoiler warning.
yeah.
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
There we go. No, they're hinting at the possibility of it being 2 regenerations, so that he's gonna toss one aside and do kind of like what Tennant did, and be able to like correct himself visually and still retain his physical Capaldi form.
While we're still in spoiler county, I thought maybe they were gonna his blindness might be solved in next week's episode where he meets for one the Pope. And
Hold on,
kind
don't give too many spoilers about next week because I want to put the
Okay. Well, we could talk about that later. But he's meeting a pope. He's that could be a moment to kind of get his blindness cured.
Yeah.
When he's interacting with people of a church with miracles, they could play off of that somehow. That's kind of
Sounds very like against.
It
the
is,
Doctor
and I
Who
feel
mentality.
like if it happens, then they're still going to put some sci-fi element to it and some reasoning. But it feels like that would be a nice episode to do it in.
It could be a thing where like the healing miracles are rooted in like
Some type of
an
alien technology.
meta vac thing that lives under the Vatican.
Because this is the same Doctor who was like, what are Americans going to do? Pray it away? I was like, whoa.
But in this episode,
Tears,
he did quote the Bible in this episode. Because he said, "Death, where is thy sting?" And that's from Corinthians.
Oh.
Interesting.
Interesting enough.
And everyone knows we're all heathens now because we're all like, oh.
Hey, Jewish.
I spend most of my time
You
in
would
Matthew.
still technically in Christianity be considered a heathen.
All right.
Hey, a lot
Do you
of
guys
my
have
friends
any
are
other
Jewish.
thoughts on like the main like the space plot line of Oxygen? And then I want to talk about the vault.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to say.
I mean, I think we've talked about it because
Yeah.
the best parts of it are the capitalism bents and using it to pay off stuff. Oxygen is something that we need, and to actually use it for money and monetize it is
Especially in
horrific.
space where it's like, there's no other option.
Yeah, there's no other option.
I love that they're like going to confront, they're like, bring us to the head office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also
We
like
have a
how
complaint to make.
it starts off with that Star Trek reference and like space, the final frontier, final because it's so deadly. I thought that was also a nod towards the fact that a lot of sci-fi forgets about just how deadly space is and how deadly the void is.
Yeah.
Often we hear stuff, it's not as silent. They create little. He even mentions in the beginning we get focused on the bubbles, the spaceships, the suits, and we forget how deadly the void is, but the void is always there. And so to use the void as a villain is, I think, really smart and good.
Even
sci-fi.
his like description of what happens to your body when you go out into the void is just like, oh yeah, like you forget that.
Yeah.
You know, if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2, it's like, oh yeah, that's everything he's describing is exactly what happened.
It's bad. It's not good.
So, yeah.
But yeah, all right. So let's get back down to Earth. We get back. Blind Doctor. We didn't get a lot in this episode in terms of the vault. We got Nardole like being very heavy on the Doctor for like, you have to stay here. You promised, like you made me promise to keep you here. The only main new thing that we got was our friend down there.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was the line. That was what Nardole said, referring to like.
They would know if you were injured or.
Yeah, what about our friend down there?
Right. So it is one person now.
I always assumed it was, but that's the first time it's really been
after
confirmed.
last week, I assumed it had to be one person after like the piano thing.
Could have been a bunch of little people dancing on the keys.
That's true. You know,
you never know.
Some elves on the shelves.
Elves on the shelves. It's just my collection of elves on the shelves.
And Nardole also referred to him, her, it, our friend as a monster or beast as well. Right. So like it could be.
Did he? What did he say?
He was like, well, when that door opens, that beast down there, blah 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 blah, blah 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 blah.
Paraphrasing that.
Yes.
I believe.
Yeah.
Right. No, exactly as it was.
Exactly. Blah, blah,
read.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's described as someone who's in the vault and is super dangerous. All signs pointing to the Master, which makes it suspicious that
Mr. Tanoki says the only question about the vault is which Master is in it.
Yeah.
John Sim or Michelle Gomez.
Yeah.
True, but if they don't have the Master in there, that would be a nice surprise.
It would be a good twist, only because like now this'll be 6 episodes in minimum that like they would have waited to reveal, and we sort of like knew like straight up from the beginning like it's probably the Master in there. Like we had other possibilities, but we're like,
pretty sure
it's gonna
the
be the Master. Let's put up that. Why don't we do predictions since we're predicting already for the vault?
Right.
So let's move it into predictions.
And now, your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
Which also means I'll open up the preview for next week is now fair game, in case anyone was sensitive to that. Because the reason that I wanted to make sure that we warn you guys is if you didn't watch it, stop listening now. Missy is seen for a moment.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, in the preview we saw Missy for a quick moment
from past seasons.
Was it?
Yeah, I think that was an old clip from because I just watched that season where she comes back to.
Interesting.
But standing behind her looked like a Time Lord.
Well,
like
maybe
I
not
went
then.
and froze it, and there is a tallish man with a golden like staff, and like he's got some kind of ornate things on it. Next to all the Pope stuff, it is possible that it's a Vatican guard.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But it also like the circle on the top of the staff lines up with Time Lords because Time Lords have big staffs with circles and stuff.
Yeah.
So
neck things.
My prediction off of that is just that I think that it is John Sim in the vault, the old like the last Master, and we are going to see, and like that shot of Missy is from the moment is like from moments after or like recent, very quickly after the Master's regeneration.
Interesting.
Well, they said that they were going to face off, and then I went back and I watched. What's it called? Dark Water, from season 8, and when she's first introduced to the Doctor, she says this one-off line. I was like, that'd be too crazy if he pulled from that far back. But she said something like, "Upload the brain, upgrade the body," and I was like, I wonder if maybe the Missy that we know isn't the actual Time Lord Master, but like a version of him that's been uploaded into a different body, and maybe the one we've been interacting with isn't, because she just like she should be dead. Like,
Right.
she was burnt to a crisp by the Brigadier as a Cyberman. And then she just came back like no big deal.
Well, reminder about that moment is because they have those Cybermen had like teleportation beams as well as disintegration beams, and they looked very, very similar.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure they just were like they hit her with a teleportation beam instead.
Right.
But that would be a way to play on the two masters meeting each other if she is just like his brain uploaded into a different
Yeah, that's true.
being.
Also, I could see that maybe Missy appears in next week because they're talking about something that's happened in the past, and you see kind of like, this is the problem the Vatican is having, and it's all because of this Missy. And so you kind of cut back.
Because when we do meet Missy, it is because she essentially created heaven.
Right.
And like going through the years, making heaven a thing. So if the Vatican is based off of a mythology that Missy created, then essentially there are going to be issues.
And either way, we're tying it back to season 8. We're tying it all the way back.
Those are I would fully expect Moffat to do something like that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think season 8 is too far back. Just think about how season 7 ended. And tying back to the silence, right back to like Matt Smith's whole arc. Like I fully believe that Moffat is a strong enough writer to have planted those seeds, or at the very least, notice what he had done before and use it again. But he's like, I didn't mean to do this, but
I'm going to use it now.
which I think is like it's one of those games that like you can never know what was planned and what was like a happy accident. With the long running plot lines like that. But I think we can all agree it's probably the Master.
Though an alternative
Yes, please.
an alternative theory, I think if it's not the Master, it could be like young Davos. Because we never know what happened at the end of that story when he decides to leave Davos alive. It could be that he decided to lock him away instead of killing him.
Yeah.
True.
Although like I'm doubting more like my own theory that I said before, and like anything where it's like a past version of someone where we know where their future is. Because what's the point? I mean, because like then if he's locking away John Sim and he knows that the John Sim Master eventually turns into Missy, then he's like delaying the inevitable because John like he knows like the way that time works, like they have to break out and regenerate at some point.
Yeah. We watched how many seasons of Every Song knowing that exact thing, so I don't think it would be. Out of their
River
of their
was sort
thoughts.
of an anomaly, though.
Yeah.
With the whole living there.
Like we were
going
watching
backwards.
that, and we already know her.
That reminds me of the thing that intrigued me of the teaser for next week's episode is he brings out River's journal.
Yeah.
When he's talking, there's a shot.
Well, it's his
close
journal
up.
because her journal's already still. It's at the library. That's where they left it.
Right.
But they both had journals because one of the last few times we see them.
Comparing notes.
Comparing notes.
Comparing notes.
With
but
the
it
Matt
is-
Smith one.
It is curious to bring, but everything in that journal has something to do with River for the most part, I think.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't really keep a
That's
journal
right.
himself.
It was coming out there.
Yeah, there's a close-up shot of him bringing that out, and I found that like real interesting
That's
Yeah.
cool.
and real cool. And what does that mean?
Yeah.
And will we see? I mean, I guess we wouldn't see Rivers, but like, because she wouldn't recognize his face.
Unless he did go back in the however many years we have not seen the Doctor. Unless he did go back to the library and go grab her journal.
Yeah.
I don't think it's unreasonable that he got a hold of it
Yeah.
and stored it away.
I didn't want those spoilers. Yeah. I'm curious to see how angry the Catholic Church is going to be after next week's episode.
Hopefully not that angry. I mean, this Pope's a pretty cool guy.
Cool Pope.
True.
He's like,
So he gets
I
what
can
fiction is.
Yeah. Well, he's also like, the Big Bang Theory and evolution. Like,
He's like-
what else is new, bro?
Like, you can have both. I'm like, yeah. I'm not going to disagree with that.
Yeah. Although this episode would have been written before that, so I'm curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we've always known Francis has been on the line with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he's like much more chill.
Yeah.
All right. I think unless anybody has any other predictions,
I'd like to say, to be contrarian, I still like the idea that it's the evil doctor in that.
the Valiant.
The Valiant, who I always forget the name of. But yes, since I heard you talk about the Valiant, I'm going to say it's the Valiant.
Sure.
Into it.
Do it.
If we're gonna, I really hope we don't like do a double like regeneration thing again, because look at how much work I had to do just to explain what the hell happened with Tennant and then Smith and then Capaldi.
Yeah.
I really, it's only gonna get worse.
I think it's
And
just
the
going to be
numbers.
more of a. Maybe it'll just be like how River used her energy, and so it they're not going to like slice that from his
It
his
would
count.
certainly be an interesting twist if, let's say, one version of the Master used some regeneration energy to help the Doctor. It would certainly fill everyone watching with a, wait, who am I supposed to root for now?
I also like the idea of if he regenerates to someone briefly and then regenerates out of it, I want it to be John Hamm. Because I feel like John Hamm is always playing characters on TVs where he shows up and you think he's going to be a big deal and then he gets killed off right away.
Yeah.
I love it if that, just to make everyone freak out, it's an American! And then it's a
And then they're back.
He
it's a
goes
British person
away.
again.
That'd be great.
Oh, man.
Oh man.
I would watch a John Hamm Doctor. I don't never do it, but it would be incredible.
No.
If we could get just like a one-off, just like a quick one episode, and then he dies, it's a waste of a regeneration. But what I'll take it.
BBC,
Yeah.
even if, just do a what if.
Yeah.
Do a what if, and I'll enjoy the hell
You
out of
know?
it.
Alternate timeline, and we meet
Just
the
go,
American
go
Doctor.
ham. Go ham on it.
all the way.
Aw, dang.
And on that note,
Yeah.
that's going to do it for the Doctor Who After Show here at AfterBuzz TV. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I have been your host, Zach Wilson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ThatZachWilson. Also, be sure to tune in right after this for the Leftovers After Show. It's going to be a big, fun time because Kevin Carroll, who plays John on The Leftovers, is joining us live in studio to talk about tonight's episode, which is freaky as all. I can't even begin.
Say nothing.
So I'm saying nothing except that this was my face at the end of it. It's just like,
Say nothing. Don't even make that face.
Tari.
I'm Tauri J. Miller. You can find me at Tauri J. That's TAURI JAY.
And
Dave
I'm
Child.
Dave Child. And you can find me at MrDaveChild or DaveChild.com. Tune in tonight at 11 for another crazy episode of American Gods. Ooh, that's a weird ass show.
Yeah.
It is a weird ass show. I'm Adrian Snow. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow. You can also catch me on Thursdays for The Handmaid's Tale and also the Unproduced Table Read on Popcorn Talk.
And if you aren't watching us on YouTube, I think there's a little less oxygen in the studio today, just based on what Tari and Dave are doing. I'm not even
Nothing
describing to you.
special.
You have to tune in to at youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV to find out.
Yeah.
Guys, this has been the Doctor Who After Show. Thank you for geeking out with us.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.